International Volunteer Day is commemorated on December 5th every year to recognize and promote the tireless work of volunteers all across the globe. Every single day, volunteers dedicate time and effort to ensure the inclusion of those left behind. Today, we are highlighting and celebrating the contribution of volunteers who have dedicated their lives to helping others. Volunteers like Barton Green. He was the chairperson of St. Michael's South Central District Emergency Organization, often called the DEO, for 25 years. Mr. Green, thank you so much for your service.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
First of all, tell us what motivated you to join a DEO.
Well, I think it starts with my being a member of a scout troop some years ago, growing up in school, and having the interest of dealing with people and going to homes and walking around districts and so on. And then as I became an adult and moved into a district, one or two persons in that district were members of the DEO, which was, of course, then called Zero. And I think I became interested and joined.
Interesting stuff. Did you ever look at what you were doing as straight out volunteerism, as in helping others, or was it just something that you did as a labor of love?
Perhaps a combination of both, a combination of both. Liking to do it and, considering it. No, maybe a combination of both.
Now, as we look back at your journey of 25 years of service, what are some of the moments that really stand out for you?
Hmm. Well, first of all, let me say that although St. Michael's South Central District is the one that I am in, um, the DEOs normally, district organizations normally share whatever is going on around them so that although you are in a particular area, you can in fact end up going to another area to assist in anything that happens. And one of my interesting one was some years ago the collapse of the Arch Cot situation in Britain's Hill, which is not in St. Michael's South Central. It is in fact in St. Michael's South, but a colleague, a next door neighbor, sharing the same street, left side, right side, and I myself and a number of us went over there to help for quite a couple of days with that very serious collapse. As you will remember that persons lost their lives in that serious incident that happened a few years ago. So that to me stands out as one of my serious moments. Other than that, there's been a number of fires. Um, we have helped with doing evacuations. I've been involved in having to control traffic, um, that kind of thing. So there's been quite a bit going on. Persons in wheelchairs who had to be moved from a home as bushfire approached the house and that kind of thing. So there's been quite a bit um, that would keep volunteers involved and interested.
Wow, definitely things to keep you interested. Now, as
Mhm,
chairperson, there
mhm,
would have been a number of things that you are in a position to implement. So talk about
mhm.
all of those things that you would have implemented as chairperson that would be rewarding for people who might be starting their journey as DEO volunteers.
Well, first of all, let me just confirm that there is a fixed a fixed format, a fixed system set up by the DEM in terms of how one has to proceed as a DEO. We all have the same guidelines written out, so it identifies exactly what you're supposed to do and how the structure should operate. Um, if there's an opportunity to go outside of that structure to make it better, then that obviously is also allowed. Um, in our case, one of the things that I thought was essential was the introduction of what we have been calling district captains. The provision that we operate on under does not identify that particular area. We talk about shelters and communication and pre and pack and first aid and and vulnerable committees and so on. But I thought that it would be important, surely for St. Michael's South Central, to have what I call district captains because of the expanse of the area. You know, having having to deal with such a wide area, I thought it was important for persons who live in a specific area within the zone to identify and know exactly what is happening within their area, know the people who have challenges, know where the wells are, know where there's a tree that is likely to fall or destroy a home or do damage and so on. So what I did do is introduce a new concept called district captains, and they are responsible for identifying exactly what is happening around them in particular areas. There's a district captain for instance, for Carrington Village, and a district captain for Pine Gardens, and a district captain for Calama Rock, and so on. And they get to know the people, the buildings, the conditions, the situation in their immediate area, and then they feed back to the executive what is going on. And of course, the other important thing is if there's a matter of, say, evacuation, those persons, the district captains, will know exactly what streets to use and what not to use, where flooding could occur, that kind of thing. So that is one of the introductions. And the other one is that I thought it would be good since I had the background to invite the scouts to join us. So we've had quite a number of sessions with the full support of the chief, where we have done walkthrough in the areas to see what is going on. We do that every year, a couple of times a year in every area, uh, except now, of course, COVID is a bit of a challenge. But we also have invited the scouts, a team of scouts, to walk with us to see what is going on, to understand it, and perhaps to give them some education as well in terms of volunteerism and what it is all about.
Wow. I'm sure the list goes on, all of the things you were able to implement as chairperson over the years. So, looking back from now, where you are now to where you started, what advice would you give to new DEO volunteers?
Well, I think the first thing is commitment, really, really seriously being committed. Um, it's not a, it's an exciting organization to be in, if you want to call it that, in that you get to wear a uniform and you get to put on boots and you get to go out when perhaps other people can't. In case of emergencies, the DOs and so and are allowed to assist. So there is a bit of a um, how should I put it? A bit of a feeling that you are involved and so on. But beyond that feeling and um, that camaraderie is the serious situation where you are helping people, not only your own family and your friends and your neighbors, but everybody in your district or and even outside of your district. You're saving them. You're saving their lives. You're saving their homes. Sometimes you're assisting them to get to the hospital or to get medical attention, all of that. So in joining a DEO, I think one has to be serious, one has to be committed, and one has to be participating in every possible way. And let me quickly say that one of the reasons for that is that the Department of Emergency Management is structured to have training programs for all the sectors that is set up within the DEA. And therefore all the DEO members need to be assigned to a sector. And once you're assigned to a sector, training is essential. But you cannot have people out there who say they're helping people but don't know what to do. First aid, saving people, damage assessment, shelters, all the other things that we are involved in. So it is about commitment.
Definitely a word that we want to hear volunteers repeating as they go through their lifetime as volunteers. So, what development would you like to see, particularly in St. Michael, South Central DEO, and more generally in DEOs across the island?
Um, the structure is quite good as it is. I think the only thing for St. Michael South Central and perhaps one or two others is the fact that, as you know, we have shelters And the shelters are listed as number one and number two. They are government shelters, which are primarily schools. And then the private sector has also given permission to use some buildings that are approved by the engineers that are sent by government to check on these things to make sure they are in fact suitable for use as shelters. We could, I think, we're still hoping to get a number one shelter in St. Michael's South Central, which means we have to find the adequate building, suitable, and a building that would be approved by the engineers, as I said, that it would be reasonably safe. Because, as you know, the number one shelters are the ones that are open before something happens. If it's going to be a hurricane, anything that we can prepare for beforehand, number one shelters would be opened for persons to go there. And the number two shelters, of course, are the ones that are open after the event. And we are quite comfortable in that we have a number of those. But I think I speak for some of the other DEOs where perhaps we still are in this in looking for and trying to find a few more number one shelters so that if we have to open before, we do have that space and that opportunity to do so in the approved buildings.
A lot of the times when we think about things going wrong or natural disasters, we think about hurricanes and so on. But as people who reside in small island developing states, there's so many ways that things can go wrong. And we've had a lot of examples, especially over the last year with the La Soufriere volcano and all of that. So your journey as a volunteer is far from over. What is the next thing that you would like to see in your community and in volunteerism?
I think we need more volunteers, first of all. Perhaps that is the most important thing. Because volunteers obviously will move from time to time. They will relocate to to different parts of the country and so on. And that sometimes causes us to lose a few people. Now, it isn't a definite that you have to live in a particular area to be a volunteer in that area, but common sense suggests that if you are in a particular area and something happens across the island, to get to your area might be more difficult if you're coming from a different part of the island. So we tend to try to keep volunteers within the particular areas that is St. Michael's South Central, Christchurch, West, whatever it is, um, so that to move around and get out and be available as quickly as possible is obviously a better decision. So from that point of view, I think that is really the importance of having volunteers and having them ready and available comes in. What's next? um, a continuation and an expansion of what we are doing. Um, some more young people coming in. I will give you, for instance, as well, part of the fund that we get sometimes. Remember going to an area where some trees had blown down in a situation and damaged two homes and some palings and so on. And when we arrived as volunteers, there were a number of young men sitting near under a tree playing a game. And as soon as we arrived, they got up and said, "Can we help you?" Now, Mark, you help is another question because, as I said, it's about training, and you can't hand a chainsaw, for instance, to somebody who has never held a chainsaw. But anyhow, we said, "Yes, you can give us a help," and so on. And they said, "Okay, can we do?" And he said, "Well, pull some branches, move things around. We are clearing the street. We are fixing back the paling and so on for the persons who had the damage." And one guy said, "Great, incidentally, how much are you paying per hour?" No, right away, the whole concept of volunteer is that you don't get paid, you know. And I'm not calling the area, but I regret to say that having heard that they were not getting paid, they walked away.
Oh, well, let's hope that by sharing more information about what volunteerism is and what it does for our community, it would encourage more people to to get on board. I just want to say that you are a volunteer extraordinaire. So thanks for your contribution of 25 years to the DEM through volunteerism.
Mhm. Thank you very much. Yes, nice speaking with you. And I hope if this helps to bring some more people on board, then I would consider that it was worth the effort.
Thank you.